you are uncertain, insecure, you can approach, feel free to approach, the head coach, even the assistant coach, to request more work or, explain, something. Because the culture of, a senior team is completely different than a youth team.
It was an important game, and we didn't make to the semifinals or finals, but it was like an important game. And he said, Stan, never get too high or too low.
Related to the basketball IQ, I think it's really important, to have, some film study with the players. And you need to find a time, to sit together and, talk, all the situation. This is like a feedback session with a certain, players. In all those sessions, I really like, to ask a question.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Basketball, Body and Mind. Today we have a guest from Hungary, Mate Jakab, a basketball coach with extensive experience in both European and international basketball. Mate is currently working with the Hungarian women's national team and in federation, but he has been coaching everywhere, in Borussia Bamberg, in Germany, in Australia, and also been with the Sacramento Kings in the Summer League team. Since he has worked with elite level athletes, he has the deep understanding of what separates those who truly become professional from those who only hope to be professional basketball player. Mate, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mate, when young players, so this podcast is for young basketball players who aspire to go to professional leagues, where you have been for, you told me of the record, like for 13 years. So when young players transition to professional teams, what do they often lack the most in your experience? Is it physical preparation, like strength and conditioning? Is it basketball, some kind of limitations? Or is it the mindset that they're not ready for the professional leagues?
The question is really good. I think it's really complex. I have been working as a coach for 14 years. Most of my career, I spent with a senior team, at a senior team. So this transition period is really, really interesting to see, all those young players who make it or who fails. I think, in my opinion, the most important, regarding the young player is like adopting the role, adopting the new role in the team. It's you can imagine that, for example, someone finish, his or her age group in the youth basketball development and turn to pro and get into the professional team is not gonna be the same. So his or her role gonna completely change. As many young players were the best on the previous teams, but in the pros, they often not to have, sometimes, they have take, the smaller roles. I think they're supposed to understand this transformation, so it's not gonna be the same. Sometimes you just, get into the court, you get subbed, and you're gonna have one shooting attempt. Everybody, except to play, a hustle full court defense, and you sit down to the bench. So that's your new role. That's what you gotta adapt. And in the previous team, in the youth team, maybe you were a superstar with unlimited shooting attempt. This is a major, transformation to understanding the new role. But right now, I think it's very important to note here that when someone, finish his or run out of, his age group and turn to pro, the most important decision to choose, the right club, the right coaches, and the right program, because the attention of the big clubs are really tempting to sign there, but you might not receive, the amount of attention or playing time what you really need and you really want. And obviously, all the professional clubs, want to produce results. So using a young player is always a risk for them. So in this transition period, it's you gotta accept and you're gonna admit that you're gonna have some valleys, ups and downs. It's not always, very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
it's a valley. So I think you gotta stay focused and don't take off your eyes, from your final goals. Uh, in those moments, young players, tend to give up, the daily routines, such as, refusing the weight room session,
Yes.
not avoiding or, the player development individual part, working less individually, because, they just lose, the enthusiasm. My advice is, do the opposite. Show, your approach, show up every day. If you don't receive your playing time, work on your individual skill, work on your body, work on your physical preparation. So show your approach and enthusiasm to the coach.
So it's, as I understand, it's a mixture of everything. It's not that something would stand out for you as a basketball coach that you see the youngster for the first time. So it's a mixture of all those areas, right?
Absolutely. I think absolutely, yeah, right.
Yes, and about the role, you were talking so much about the roles, and you are not the first one to mention the role, like basketball coach in this podcast. So, should players approach young players should approach you, assistant coach, head coach? Who should they approach, or coaches should make them move first and say, "This is your role"?
I think this is a good question. First of all, that uh, yeah, sometimes it's naturally created. It's naturally created, all those roles. When someone, when a young player get into a system, he or she is supposed to realize, that where you are in the hierarchy. Of course, you realize that there are some, veteran players, surrounding veteran players. So they supposed to recognize the situation, where are they in the hierarchy. If they don't know, of course, you can ask question. It's always great, to ask question. You don't look stupid, the worst question if you don't ask your question. So yes, if you are uncertain, insecure, you can approach, feel free to approach, the head coach, even the assistant coach, to request more work, or, explain, something, because the culture of, a senior team is completely different than a youth team.
Yes. So it could be that coaches, let's say, I mean, in professional clubs, they care more about usually winning rather than developing young players. I mean, it depends, but usually it is the how to say, the approach that clubs have, and maybe some coaches do not even, let's say, quote unquote, notice the young players. So yes, don't, as you said, like, don't get personal. Go ask for questions, ask the role, ask for extra work, stick to your routines. This is what probably the young players should do then, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's how I said in the previous part that the if you turn to pro, you gotta accept the main goal is producing the results, regardless which senior team you belong to. The main goal is producing the result.
And you also said that maybe the young player was a superstar in the youth league where he or she was playing, and then when they come to the senior league, they might be, let's say, player number 12 or maybe player number 14. Uh, so, is there a way, or what could the youth player do when he or she is, let's say, age 18 or 19? Should they do something, kind of introduce that senior basketball level to their how to say, basketball game? Should they look for a team that would allow them to train with the older players to have that experience? How can we make that transition smoother or easier for them?
I think it would be a very fortunate situation if you are able to synchronize the youth program to the senior program. But I know this is a little bit like too ideal. It's not every club has like affiliation or like a youth club. But it would be really nice to put together certain guidelines and certain fundamentals, and I think it may help all this transition period. Just imagine the situation if the junior clubs play with the same fundamentals such as the senior team plays. The transition period is way shorter, and and just easier, to understand when to get into a turn to pro, when you get into the senior team.
Yes, and you do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have not worked with like a basketball coach for the youth teams, right?
Youth team, yeah. I was,
You have
in my
not, yes, or
in the
you.
beginning of my career, yeah. In the
Oh,
beginning of my career, yeah,
okay. So
I
maybe
did.
then it's not so much of your expertise because most of the time you were working with the senior team. But are you aware about any, maybe you have known any differences between youth basketball and let's say under 19 or 17 and senior basketball? Is it somehow different? Not the rule wise, but the playing wise. Is it less plays or is it, I'm curious, is the basketball different that also transition is harder to make to the senior level?
For sure, it's different. Yeah, I think it's different. Yeah, how you said that. I don't have too much experience or too much expertise. To compare those ones. But the tactical standpoint, I think it's way less in the youth basketball comparing to senior basketball. The preparation and the scouting is definitely way less. Less game planning. Hopefully, more emphasis on the skill part and the individual work in the youth basketball. So yeah, if you can definitely differentiate.
Yes. So, do you see also issues when youth players are receiving the scouting reports of the team? Do they understand what they see, or should they maybe, I don't know, do some kind of like reports by themselves if the coach is not doing it at the youth league?
I think this is a process. This is a learning process. This is a learning curve. uh for sure, it's for the first time when they see a scouting report, it's gonna be, they consider it like it's a rocket science.
Yes.
Uh, but it's also, how I said, it's a learning curve. It's also a transitioning period, to understand. And maybe, in the beginning, they gotta they need, more time, to study all those things. They really need to sit down and, look it again and again, because it's just for the veterans, it's just very automatic. When they receive a scouting report, videos, paper, whatever, it's just so automatic. They have seen, a bunch of different, style and format, and
Yes.
they know exactly what to read. For example, if there is a big man, they immediately know, they read, their opponent matchup, the big ones. So this is also a learning curve for the young players, to to learn how to use and how to study the scouting report.
Yes. Why I was pushing on this also a little bit is because some people do not, especially young people that I have worked with, they do not take it seriously, the scouting reports, even if they are already over 19 years old and they are, let's say, 20, 21. Some of them still not taking it seriously. And they think that the game is played only when the game is played. But actually, you have to prepare for that game in advance. You have to know that someone is, let's say, right or left-handed, and the person drives, for example, only right, and the person is still not being defended. So the coaches get mad and they ask and they sub the player. So in order to make that transition easier, I do believe you have to pay attention to that a lot. And let's shift a little bit gears now and. You have unique experience because you have been involved with men and women basketball. What are the differences in terms of coaching women and men? Is there differences or should we coach the same?
Interesting question. A very interesting question. I gotta say that, if I need to define, the major differences, I would say that, women basketball is a horizontal sport, while the men's basketball is a very vertical sport. It's not my thoughts, I stole it. I
Yeah,
stole it. So,
very
but I
nice.
keep
Yes.
repeating this, and this sentence, I think, sum up very well, the major differences, between those, part. I think this is the baseline. You gotta understand this. Women basketball are horizontal, and men's basketball is a very vertical sport. So you cannot demand the same things, the same elements, because some of those elements require some sort of physical tools. Let me give you an example. For example, a practical example. Uh, when you have a fast break situation, 2 against 1, I personally I really like to emphasize to throw the ball in the air when you finish 2 against 1. You cannot request the same things from girls. That's the baseline. That's the diagnosis. What you gotta understand.
Hmm.
Between men's and women's basketball. But on the other hand, when you plan a practice or when you run a practice, I don't differentiate at all. So I don't I don't have a different kind of practice plan for women team or men team. I got a I got a common one. I got the same one. So it's basketball. It's all about basketball, regardless what team you coach. So I really, really respect the women basketball, and I think women basketball made a significant improvement in the past year. Um, I've seen many numbers and many key stats and and yeah, numbers, and for example that WMB delivered the record settings in this season, record numbers. It was the past season, it was the most viewed regular season
Hmm.
ever. So more than a million viewer in every regular season game, which is a significant improvement, a significant step for whole women basketball. Huge increase comparing last season, for example. Uh, I worked in the unrivaled league in the whole January, and I think they made a historical milestone. As I know, in the first weekend, it was 3 million viewers tuned
Hmm.
into women's basketball in the
Yes.
opening weekend. So those numbers are insane, uh, and shows very well that which milestone women basketball has already reached, and how I said that in my country where I came from, I'm from Hungary, that men's basketball is always trailing the women basketball.
Hmm.
Women basketball has delivered way better result regarding internationally than men's basketball. So I
So
gotta admit that I got tremendous respect for women basketball. But you gotta understand all those differences
yes.
what I mentioned previously.
Yes, very good. I haven't heard that before, but as you say, like if you would need to summarize it, because the question is very broad, very broad. You can attack any other area, you can talk about any area, but when you said this way, it really summarizes well. And you said that there are no differences. So those advices that we are talking, mostly I'm referring to boys and men when I'm talking because that's my almost all my experience. But if there are no differences, so then most likely those advices that we give also would apply to the girls transitioning to the senior level too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is the main advice, and sometimes you can see, for example, in women basketball, you can see some longer actions. For example, comparing to men's basketball, it's all about connecting the dots. It's all about the physical tools. Sometimes in women basketball, uh, the entry, the entry of the set play, the entry of the action is not easy. Maybe the coaches need to add something else, to get the separation. This is all connected, all those physical tools what I mentioned in the beginning.
Yes, yes. And now, when you think about either any younger girl or a boy, is there any certain trait or characteristic, it can be like personally or like as a basketball player, that stands out for you that you think, okay, this player will make it? Is there anything that would come to your mind?
Hmm.
Maybe is it discipline, or they show up early, or they, I don't know, ask questions as you said.
Yeah, I think like it's consistency. As this is my motto. This is my mantra. I try to keep repeating every day that consistency always beat the short term intensity. So if you are consistent in certain part, in all those, area, what matters, I think, all those players gonna make it. So how you said that, I try to referring what you said, that, those who succeed, they show up every day, not just when, they feel it.
Hmm.
Uh, they bring, the intensity every practice and every game, treating every opportunity like, it matters. Uh, I think it's a really, really important, a really, really interesting question. What you say that, who's gonna make it and, who don't. Uh,
Yes, like one coach that
it's
I talked previously. Sorry to interrupt, but I
no
asked similar
problem.
question, and he said I believe those who make it, they are coachable. I like coachable, that they are able to receive feedback. They do not get personal. They want to improve, and then also said that they are competing. But I also think consistency is what drives results in every area. Like you cannot
Absolutely.
get results without being consistent.
Absolutely. So it's in my opinion, like you can learn everything. You can pick up every skill, but your talent pool gonna tell you, what's your ceiling, what's your
Hmm.
ceiling is in all those, area, what you want to improve. So it's obvious that, you cannot teach talent, you cannot teach height,
Yes.
you know, but somebody just, gifted talent, he or she gotta use it. But let's try to revert it. Like try to look at, upside down. If someone, has gifted talent but lack of, hardworking
Yes.
approach, passion to the game, or lack of consistency, he or she won't make it. You
Yes.
gotta admit it. And this is a very important message. All those who who has talent, it's not enough. It's not enough. Be very Uh, yeah, be very glad, you have this, but you're gonna show up every day and you gotta add, all those other small minor things.
Yes. Is basketball IQ a skill or is it more like a talent? What I asking is, can you improve basketball IQ by being consistent? I don't know what kind of drills you should do, but is it a skill that you can improve or is it given?
I don't know. What do you think? What was the answer from the previous coaches? It's a really
No,
really interesting question.
I haven't asked this before. You are, I don't
Hmm.
know, maybe like third or second basketball
Hmm.
coach, but I cannot answer if basketball IQ can be improved. Why I'm saying this? Sometimes when I talk to the, I'll say kids, but like basketball players, young basketball players in the weight room, they say it's difficult. The speed is much faster, and sometimes I'm about to take a shot. And I think in my head, maybe I should be passing right now and not taking a shot. And then he said, my shot is off just because I am thinking about something else. But then they said, maybe if my decision making process would be faster, I would see, oh, it's not a shot, it's a pass. So maybe you basketball coaches can do some kind of drills to improve basketball IQ, or maybe then it gets so inside of you, so automatic that it's not basketball IQ, but it's just you're reading the decisions based on everything what you see in the court, and you have been in that situation many times. That's why you know what is the right decision. If I'm explaining myself well.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think that's what I believe in too. Like, first and foremost, I think it's really important, define define, what is basketball IQ. It's a so common term. We
Yes.
nowadays is very fashionable and very flashy to use it. That he or she doesn't have basketball IQ. It's
Yes.
really easy to throw in and put the label to the players that okay, she or he doesn't have any basketball IQ. So I think it's really important that define what is basketball IQ. Definitely, I think in my opinion is reading the game and understanding the game, anticipating for what's gonna happen on the court, what's gonna yeah, it's like anticipation is definitely, like part of basketball IQ. Decision making is definitely, like I can condense all this word like reads quick decisions
Yes.
based on certain situation. That's also basketball IQ for me. And globally, like understanding the game, understanding the I don't know, understanding the opponent, understanding the spacing, timing, execution. Uh, it's all those like basketball IQ. What we said.
Yes.
Uh, well, what you said is completely agree. I think you should teach. For example, let me give you an example. Uh, when you play against, I don't know, the opponent plays show coverage for the ball screen,
Mm-hmm.
and when you break it down in practice, I think first and foremost you should give every tools to the player how you can play against the show.
Mm-hmm.
He or she is not going to identify or not going to learn throughout his or her experience. When you give her the tools or him the tools that how you're going to play and what's your preferences, for example, playing against show. After that, he or she is going to have all those tools in her or her in his pocket, what she or he can utilize. And on the game situation, that you can test it that she or he can make it.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about the show coverage, if you see a show coverage, for me number one preference is to throw the ball to the short roll, and after that you can build up your preferences as a coach. So I believe that we need to give all the options to the players, and after that in a game we rely on them how to select those tools what we have already told them.
Yes, and these are, as you say, you have those options in your bag, and I do believe that you have those options in the back, and by you I say player has those options in the back theoretically, because you need to mess up many times. You need to uh, do those options many times in order to know, to feel which one to use. Maybe persons sometimes have preferences, but also it will be the many factors that will influence the defense or the offense, what action you will do afterwards. So knowing that is probably not only enough, but you have to consistently practice it also. And another thing that also I like, while you were talking, I was thinking also how can be improved. I remember one coach when I was in Czech Republic, he said, Stan, you are a strength coach and you watch more basketball than some of the youngsters do. He said that sometimes he feels that players watch too many highlights and not enough of full basketball games, uh, because in highlights you don't see everything. Would you, just curious, would you agree with that, or no?
Definitely, definitely. I absolutely agree. This is our word, It's this is the direction what we are going right now. To watch and to see, like shorter, products, not in a fully game. Uh, Related to the basketball IQ, I think it's really important, to have some film study with the players, and you you need to find a time to sit together and talk all the situation. This is like a feedback session with a certain players. In all those sessions I really like to ask a question, that how did you feel in this situation, why did you do these things, because you can
Mm-hmm.
identify that he or she understand the situation. uh, all those film studies and film sessions are really important for me, because you can a little bit get closer to the player, understand what is going through his or her mind. um, you can gain some knowledge that he or she understands the game, what she or he is supposed to do in a certain situation. I think this is also really great feedback for the coaches as well, to see how they see the game, because they are in the game. We just try to help them and give some tools, but on end of the day, they are on the court, they make the decision. We just the supporting cast to prepare them all those situations.
Yes. And if somebody at, let's say, under 19 level, they don't have a coach who would watch the game, who would cut, let's say, the uh, highlights of for
Breakdown,
that
yeah.
player, yeah, breakdown, do the breakdowns. So is it beneficial for that young player to kind of look by himself or herself the game? And I don't know, probably you have to have certain awareness of yourself and understanding of the game, but would you see value of them watching their own game if it says recorded?
Absolutely, absolutely. I will recommend, to watch back the whole game. For example, when I'm preparing for the opponent, I always, watch a full game. So I never, work for watching, some breakdowns or cuts.
Hmm.
I always try to watch a full game, because I want to understand the whole flow of the game. If you just watch certain clips, for example, I'm working on the offense and I just watch the offensive clips of the opponent. I don't feel them. I don't feel the whole flow of the game. When was the period when the coach asked a timeout? What was the body language when somebody gets subbed? And I try to emphasize right now that this is the power of the watching back the full game, the full film. So this is what I recommend to the young player, that they're supposed to also study themselves, and not only like not only basketball wise, also study the body language, how they run, how they sprint, how they sub, how they support each other on the court. What's your body language? What's your energy on the court? What kind of energy you deliver
Yes.
when you get sub into the game.
Yeah.
It's a small nuances, but it really matters.
Yes, as you said, like at professional level, you have to find the way to provide for the team. Otherwise, you will not be at that senior level or at that team. And maybe at the youth level, you, regardless of what you do, you're the superstar. You will be playing for that team. But I really like that you're mentioning these, let's call it soft skills, the psychology, the interaction, communication, all of these things. I really like that you are mentioning
Nothing
these.
else we demand. For example, when a young player gets sub into the game, we we nothing else we demand, just just bring energy. It's very simple, but it's really hard. It's very simple term, but it's really hard to like to execute. We doesn't require anything special. Just get into the game and bring energy. That's what we want. I think that's what we want to see. And if she or he misses the shot, okay, go on, move on.
Yes.
Next play mentality, but
Yes.
bring energy. This is the most important for me.
Yes. So you answered the question that I was about to ask, like what do teams pay attention to? Is it only the highlights that you see? But you said that no, we watch full game. Yes. And
Absolutely, yeah.
and briefly you mentioned about the routines. I didn't want to pick it up, but I do believe it's super important. But I wanted to talk now at the before the last part of this episode. But talk about a little bit of daily routines. Why do you think those routines are important for either for young players, but especially for those professionals? Why are they important?
Uh, I think it's really really important. Like I have seen many pros, surrounding me, and I was sometimes, I was really fascinating by, how professional they are. Uh, Sometimes I had an impression that, they are like a human rabbits. How they live, life, how dedicated they are on all those, daily habits, what they need to do, all those, weight room session, nutrition stuff, shooting, everything, extra work. So yeah, sometimes when I was observing all those pro players, I had an impression that they are like a human rabbits, and I try to function in the same way. Like for example, that regardless it's a win or defeat, I try to follow the same habits as a coach, like preparing preparing the team in the same way for the upcoming opponent. Try to break down the film in the same way, not to overreact all those certain defeats, not to overreact the winning game. I think it's really important that that, be really consistent with your habits, regardless you are a player, regardless you are a coach.
Hmm.
It's winning, and I think, in our world, especially in Europe, it's winning games and losing games can change your habits, and it shouldn't.
You shouldn't.
Your
Yes.
habits supposed to be the same. It's like regardless it's a winning game or losing game, after the game you wake up or in the same night you break down the game. You do the post game, report. You break down the film. You try to give some feedback to the team, regardless it's a winning game or a losing game. Do
Yes.
not change your habits, and that's what I have seen, in the pro players. They try to keep the same routine. It's a, can be strength and condition part, can be
Yes.
like weight session, nutrition, everything.
Yes. Yes. I mean, 100%. Because what will lead you to the results are the actions that you do. But if your actions is or are based on your motivation, on wins or losses, so then your success becomes kind of not certain. Like it depends on motivation. But as you said, like regardless of the day, whether it's your birthday, whether you won or you lost, show up every day.
It's your emotion level. Why you say that, it's like it's your emotion level. And when you have a winning game, you are up high there. When you lose a game, you are down in a deep hole, and deep black hole, and you are finding the answers. And I think, routines are really helps you, to understand the situation, and you gotta do the same. It's very important, I think that's my opinion, and it's also my mantra, that identify the situation, identify the problem. So when you have a losing game or you have a defeat, of course you gotta identify the situation well, because if you define the problem in the wrong way, after that you go to the next practice, and you start to work on all those things what is not important. So identifying the problem, identifying, what you have done wrongly, it's really, really important. But do not overreact. Like, you gotta, keep your emotional level here, regardless it's a winning game or a losing game. It's very important, I think.
Yes, yes. This is also several years ago in Czech Republic. I was working with one coach. Right now, he's director of skill development at Portland Trail Blazers. And I remember we lost, and in one of the games, it was an important game, and we didn't make to the semifinals or finals, but it was like a important game. And he said, "Stan, never get too high or too low."
Never get too high, never. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So now let's go to the last part, and the last part are short questions. Questions are not. I always make this mistake. Questions are not so short, but your answer. I usually ask to make it one word, but for now, let's do this way that you can answer either one word or one sentence. It's up to you if you need to explain a little bit yourself. So then try to summarize it to one sentence. Is that clear?
Absolutely.
We have approximately maybe 8 questions, but let's see. Are there any other important stats for you besides point, rebounds, and assist that you look at
Team or individually?
individually?
Individually. Hmm. Plus minus.
Okay. What is one quality? Actually, this is you answered, so it's consistency. So I'll not ask it. If a player lacks leadership qualities such as communication on the court, emotional control, teamwork, can he or she still make it to the professional level?
Absolutely, yes.
Do teams look for players who are not great scorers but can defend and rebound well?
It's mandatory. You need this character in the team.
Perfect. What do youth players lack more often when transitioning? Is it individual skills or understanding of tactics of in the team of the plays?
I think the second one can be both, but I think, the tactical approach, because how I believe, the skill development part, never ends.
Okay.
You can still, in the summer, you can still gain, some additional, skills and play development. You can have some playing development part, but the tactical things is very important.
Okay, that's very long one sentence answer. Okay,
Yeah,
look,
I try to pay attention.
only players with high basketball IQ, and let's define IQ as we were talking previously, can make it to pro level. Or with low IQ level, can you be still at the professional leagues?
Low basketball IQ,
Yes,
high low basketball IQ, high basketball league. Is it possible?
yes. If you would think now about players, no names to mention, but have you met players playing professionally with you would be surprised that the IQ level is lower that you expected?
Yes, but he or she is gonna have a ceiling, and the trade-off supposed to be really significant. For example, that he or she needs a extraordinary physical skill set, or
Okay.
some really major, trade-off.
Yes. Okay. It's very, very good point. Should we have two more questions? Should player learn plays for multiple positions?
Definitely yes,
And
absolutely.
good, good. And in your opinion, can a coach make or break a player's career? Because why I'm
Both.
asking this, both. Because why I'm asking this, and we can maybe this is the last question for this episode. But why I'm asking this because sometimes in my work I see that players do not get the minutes, and they blame the coach, and they say that they're losing motivation to play basketball. And then I wonder, is it excuse that they want to quit basketball or for some reasons, let's say, or is it really that coach is terrible and there's no way for a player to make it?
Just gotta jump back, what I said, that young players gotta choose, the right coaches, right program, and the right club. So yeah, they can either break or they can even make, the player's career. I think it's both. The opportunity gotta meet.
Yes, yes, we have to be still training, be ready for the time when opportunity comes. So to sum up our call, correct me if tell me if this is correct, but I will sum up usually I do in three key takeaways. So first takeaway from this call would be that you have to know your roles and find out those roles either by understanding when you enter the team by understanding. If you do not understand, your role can be found by asking questions to the coach. Second thing would be very shortly consistency and routines or habits that you need to do in order to be professional. And lastly, you have to study the game. Do not expect that you can turn pro only doing a work on the court or in the weight room, but outside you have to work also. What are those
Absolutely.
three?
Good
Approved?
sum up. Good recap. Absolutely good recap. Yeah, absolutely approved. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen a single basketball player who became a professional, exclusively on the court. Off court stuff is mandatory. Is really important. What you do off the court. Actually, this is what define, or this is what helps you to be a really professional, because on court is sometimes like, I don't know, daily 3 hours max.
Yes.
All the off court stuff really matters,
Yes,
deeply
extra.
matters.
Yes, those 20 hours when you're not on the court or in the weight room. But Mate, thank you very much for your time today. I'm sorry that I was pushing you a little bit with some of the questions and like trying to
That was
squeeze.
great.
But if someone wants to learn more about your work or get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
I'm available, every social platform. I'm a modern coach, so you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, even though in LinkedIn as well. So feel free to reach out, and I'm a really open-minded person. I really like, to share all those, experience and share all those thoughts. This is also, part of my self-development, that I also try to seek some connection with other coaches and initiate some conversation, throughout the Zoom, uh, some MB guys as well. So I really, really open-minded, and really I always, find a time slot, an opportunity to connect and talk, and
Yes.
yeah.
A shout out to Roberto for making the introduction, and everyone also. I'll put in the show notes for the ways to contact you. But everyone else, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share this episode. This is the best way to support us. But for now, keep training basketball, body, and mind.